This is episode 15 of the Battle of Ohio podcast. The Browns squeaked out a win against the mighty Jacksonville Jaguars this week and set themselves in control of the number 5 playoff seed in the AFC. The Bengals lost again, but honestly, this is my perspective, but in general, it seems like we Bengals fans are kind of struggling to find any meaning in these games anyway without Joe Burrow. So for me personally, this one didn't hurt as much as any of the other one-score losses we've had all season. Um, the team that we don't like doesn't play until tomorrow night because we're recording this on Monday morning. But the Steelers still suck.
The Steelers still suck. They still suck indeed.
Yeah, they are.
Welcome to the Battle of Ohio podcast, where we follow the revival of the historic rivalry between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns.
Suck indeed.
Yeah, they are. They are the worst. I hate them. Can't wait until they lose. Even though you're all focused on them losing to the Ravens. Or no, you're all focused on them beating the Ravens because you want to see the Ravens out of the playoffs. And I understand what you're saying, but my point is I think the Ravens can beat the Steelers and still miss the playoffs. So we already talked about this, but I definitely think the Ravens have a better shot than people are expecting to kind of come out of nowhere and beat the Steelers on tomorrow night. By the way, for anybody who's watching this, we're going to be doing a live stream on Facebook of the game, like a watch party type thing. So if you want to come hang out with us live, that's a good time to do it. We'll all watch this game and kind of see how the playoff umbrella kind of starts to form. And we'll have a good time doing it. Bring beer.
Bring beer. Bring a lot of beer.
Yep. Speaking of beer, what are you drinking today, Thomas?
Today I'm drinking another Amstel Light. Yep, anytime you gotta wake up early in the morning, do a podcast, nothing like drinking an old man beer because I feel like an old man.
Old man beer.
What about you, Gal?
I'm not so much looking to wake up with a beer, but I do just kind of feel like having a Schafferhofer again. It's like I said before, it's not exactly the highest alcohol volume content, but it's weird. I'm usually really don't like fruity beers, but I think it's got a really good balance of flavor to it. So for something like drinking like for breakfast in the morning, it's not too bad. If you're going to be drinking, you might as well be drinking something. If you're going to be drinking in the morning, might as well be drinking something that tastes good.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
But let's go ahead and jump into these games. First, and much less interestingly, the Bengals fell to 2-7-1 after losing to the Giants. And does anyone actually care anymore? Like I like I said in the intro, I just don't. I watched. We lost. It was by less than one score. We had a chance to win at the end of the game before I believe Brandon Allen got a strip sack and fumble. But it's just kind of like whatever. It's just like we're not going to the playoffs. The only thing left to play for is maybe to like build some momentum with Zach Taylor going into 2021 and. I mean, that I guess that's something to play for. But at the same time, like I said on the last podcast, if we lose, then we get a better draft position. So it's just kind of like I don't want to call it a win-win because, you'd never want to root for losses. The only reason I rooted for losses last year is because I knew Joe Burrow was on the other end. So, I mean, I'm not so, like, sold on Penei Sewell that I'm looking for the Bengals to, like, tank this year. I still want to see them win every week. But at the same time, when we don't, it doesn't hurt the same as it hurt like at the beginning of the season. Because at the beginning of the season, we had hope. And we're like, oh, the Joe Burrow, he's playing so great. And maybe we can, put together an unlikely playoff run or at least, like put together something that, resembles a worthwhile season to build momentum for next year. And now it's just all out the window. It's just it's not fun anymore, honestly.
Well, at least we got to see Colt McCoy play. Good old Colt McCoy. I actually have an autograph book. I got Colt McCoy to autograph the Kite Runner back in 2010 when he played for the Browns. So shout out to Colt McCoy, y'all. But other than that, Brandon Allen didn't look terrible.
Hey, okay, so look,
He didn't look good, but he didn't look terrible.
Brandon Allen did not look catastrophic. I think that's a good way to put it is he did not look catastrophic. Ryan Finley looked catastrophic. So at the very least, we know we have somebody who is potentially worthy of being a lower end backup quarterback behind Joe Burrow. We know that Brandon Allen, if we can't find somebody, who's legitimately like a Ryan Fitzpatrick type or something like that, we know that Brandon Allen, it's like I said on the podcast, he goes as the team goes typically. The team didn't do so well, so he didn't do so well. He was 17 for 29 for 136 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and a fumble at the end of the game. So that's not good, but it's better than Finley. So I'll take it.
I mean, T. Higgins had a touchdown, 44 yards, didn't really do much. Brandon Allen wasn't really throwing the ball well, like you said. I mean, he could have done worse, but he could have done a lot better. Daniel Jones got hurt, hamstring injury, so he had to play Colt McCoy, and you had to play against Colt McCoy, and still, it just, I don't know, man. I tried to go back and watch this game. I was just like, yeah. I'm sorry, Kyle. I'm sorry, Kyle. It reminds me of being a Browns fan. We've been in this situation multiple times where we had to, where we got to the end of the season, and it was just like, man, what are we really playing for at this point? And like you said, draft position, and it takes like the dedicated Bengals fans to go to the games and to watch the games. But let me say this, though. Let me say this, Bengals fan. Football only comes around 4 months of the year. So, it might hurt, but at least y'all still got football right now. So at least enjoy the fact that there's football. Get drunk, go to a game, go to a tailgate, enjoy yourself. Tickets are probably cheap right now. Just go to the game, have fun.
Well, tickets aren't that cheap. Because of COVID and the restrictions, tickets are actually kind of expensive. I personally, I've always loved going to games, but I'll be honest, I haven't been to a game in a couple of years just because, ticket prices are insane. So it's really difficult to try to get to games right now. I will say, football is, I love football. I like, regardless of what is going on with the Bengals, I love watching football. That's part of why I do this podcast, because I love talking about football. That's why we do the predictions, because, the Bengals aren't the only team that I watch. Now, they're the only team that I consistently root for, but, I watch all the other teams, or as many of the other teams as I can, just because I'm fascinated by football and the NFL and stuff like that. So watching the Bengals yesterday, it's kind of like there's not really much left to care about as far as the Bengals, like what goes on with the Bengals are concerned, except maybe what happens with Zach Taylor, because the Bengals' plan all along is to give him through 2021 to see what he can do. And I don't think that's changed, because the reports have come out that said, he's not on the hot seat, and that's not surprising at all. I hope some of his assistant coaches are on the hot seat, because regardless of the accuracy of that report that came out about the Bengals' toxic culture, I still think that, guys like Jim Turner and Lou Anarumo just aren't getting the job done. And there's enough good that I've seen out of Zach Taylor that I think, okay, there's stuff that we can work with here, but the bad parts are so bad that something has to be done about those bad parts, because without those bad parts changing, like the offensive line and the defensive line, or the entire efficacy of the defense in general, without that changing, Zach Taylor is going to have no chance to put together anything good. And if he can't fix that, then unfortunately the talent that he does have would be wasted. So you're going to have to go find somebody else to do that job. I'm not saying we fire him just yet, but I am saying that that's about the only thing left to watch as far as the Cincinnati Bengals are concerned. Because you got, what is it, 5 games? Wait, was it we just got past week 12. So you got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. We got 17. What?
We got 5 games left.
Yeah, we got 5 games left. So my thought process is if Zach Taylor can at least finish the year with a 5-win record, which would actually be kind of difficult because we only have 5 games left, and so you would have to win 3 of those games and only lose 2 of them, which almost seems impossible considering the fact that we can't even beat the Giants with a backup quarterback.
Who knows? It might get better every game.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, I mean, we do still have the Cowboys and Texans, and they're both trash. But the Texans are playing better, kind of like the Giants have been playing better. So it's just kind of like, how much can we really expect to beat the Texans? And we can maybe beat the Cowboys, but it's just kind of like if we end the year with 3-win record, I mean, who's really going to get all excited about that? Nobody. And Zach Taylor probably get to the end of 2021, but it's going to be really hard to keep supporting him with that just awful record of his. And now, granted, he's had setbacks, but every coach has setbacks. Not every coach has a 4-21-1 record.
Like Brandon Allen, if that pass interference didn't happen, man, that would have been a touchdown with Tyler Boyd. Y'all would have, y'all probably wouldn't have won. I mean, because y'all still lost by 2, right?
Yeah. Well, see, had it not been for the fumble at the end of the game, which was actually I believe the fumble at the end of the game that really killed us, I believe, was Drew Samples. And if it had not been for that fumble, we probably could have gotten in field goal range. And I mean, you could never trust Randy Bullock. That's why I want him gone. I've wanted him gone for years. But you could never trust Randy Bullock. But I mean, you at least have a chance.
Randy Bullock, you're trash.
Randy Bullock, you're worse than Carson Wentz. I hate you. Go away.
Y'all were y'all were at the 50-yard line with 57 seconds to go.
Yeah.
We
could, which was amazing because the Giants. So I mean, if you look at the stat line, the Giants so devastatingly outplayed the Bengals that game, and the fact that we were in position to win that game just shows you that the Giants are about as inept as the Bengals are, because the Bengals have lost a ton of games like that where we've outplayed the competition through most of the game and then somehow found a way to screw it up at the end. The Giants really deserved to win that game, and they ended up pulling it out. But had it not been for that late fumble, the Bengals could have won, and that would have been a travesty. Honestly, from a neutral standpoint, that would have been a travesty if the Bengals had won that game.
You guys were 20 yards away from winning that game.
Yeah,
20 yards away and a good field goal kicker.
15 yards away, really. And because Bullock can hit longer field goals, it's weird. He struggles on intermediate field goals, but he can hit longer.
Yeah, but he can't
hit a 58-yarder earlier this season. It was just a little it was a little off angle, but it had the distance. So it's I don't understand how, but Randy Bullock does have a strong leg. He just has no accuracy. At least not NFL level accuracy. And I don't understand how he's still in the league. Or at least on our team. I'm sure he'd get another job, but I don't understand how he's still on the Bengals. We got Austin Seibert right there. And as much as, Browns fans had kind of a love-hate relationship with Austin Seibert, he's better than that.
I don't think Browns fans hate him. I just think he missed one field goal and the team released him, and people were like, "Oh, well, that's surprising."
Yeah, I kind of questioned that much. That's why I was so excited.
Nobody in Cleveland was nobody in Cleveland had their pitchforks out for Austin Seibert. It was just I don't know.
I heard
he missed 2 field goals. His career.
This guy sucks.
Yeah, but you have those irrational people.
That's true.
You have those irrational people. And there's always those, but I think in general, I think the rational Browns fan was oh, well, why exactly would you release somebody? I don't know. He only missed 2 field goals. Like I remember there being a post on the Browns fan club that said like, why would you release somebody who only missed 2 field goals within their first 2 years?
Right.
Like no extra point, and they play in Cleveland. Like I don't know.
Right.
Like Randy Bullock missed 2 field goals in one game.
Well, not only that, but he's missed like multiple like ridiculous like extra points and stuff. Like this guy is just—he's not good. He occasionally gets by, but he's not good. I don't understand how he's still the kicker. We had Jake Elliott. Now I understand that's Marvin Lewis's fault, not Zach Taylor's fault, but we had Jake Elliott. So anyway, about the Browns, you mentioned something about how you didn't watch the Bengals game. I
watched parts of it.
Well, right. I did watch like the tail end of the Browns game. Now, obviously, I didn't watch the Browns game because I was busy, making my head hurt with the Bengals game. But at the end, the Browns still had like I think 6 minutes left in the game with the Jaguars. And I originally wasn't going to watch it because I think the last time I had looked, you guys were up by more than the touchdown. And I was like, okay, this isn't even a thing. And then I looked and I'm like, are you guys seriously about to lose this game to the Jaguars? Because it was like 25-27. And I'm like, what? So I changed the channel. And then when I changed the channel, nothing really happened. And the Browns just kind of won the game. But it was just like, I don't know. I know you have a couple of thoughts about like, the refs and stuff. And you can talk about that. I'll give you the platform to talk about that. But why don't you tell me what the hell happened here? Like, why did the Browns almost lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, somebody posted on Twitter that the Browns had to defeat the refs, the Jaguars, and themselves. Like, those are 3 opponents that they were playing against. Because, like, I just chalk it up to, like, when you said it was a trap game, I could not get that out of my head because I just missed that. Because like I was thinking like, dang, it's like mid-season and the Browns are winning all these games, and it just kind of felt like, I was like, dang, this is a trap game. This is exactly what he said. It's a trap game. Right. Because for one, Baker Mayfield made some great passes, but he also made some very poor passes. And one of the passes that he made, he threw a pass to. At the very end of the game, he threw a pass to Kareem Hunt, and it hit Kareem Hunt in both his hands. Like it hit Kareem Hunt right in both his hands. And Kareem Hunt probably should have caught that ball, but at the same time, Baker Mayfield, you got to throw that ball. You got to hit Kareem Hunt right in the chest. So it was kind of inaccurate. It was still a very catchable ball that an NFL receiver should make, but Baker Mayfield, you got to make a better pass than that. So that was a bad pass that could have iced the game. And then. The very next play, and you've probably seen this photo all over the internet. Kareem Hunt comes in and he jumps and then he makes the first down. And then they review it. And then even though the review shows that it's a first down, and they have it on picture, and there's a picture on the internet that shows the ball clearly at the first down line. They're like, yeah, no, that's not a first down. And it's just like, wait, what? It's like the refs were trying to screw us. But before that play, 2 plays earlier, the Browns had ran the ball to Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt fought for like 3 or 4 yards, and the refs placed the ball literally, not even joking about this, 2 yards from the spot of where Kareem Hunt fell. 2 yards behind where the spot. So Kevin Stefanski was like, hey, it's not right. I'm challenging that. Like, he threw his challenge flag. Like, I'm challenging that play. That's not right. Y'all just took 2 yards out of our, like, that's 2 yards right there. Like, y'all can't just say that, no, you can't have this 2 yards. Like, it doesn't work like that. So they went back and they replayed it, and they gave the Browns 2 yards, but they didn't give them the first down. So they still took away a timeout from us. Now, if you're familiar with the NFL rules, the rule is if you challenge and the play is changed due to the challenge, then you do not lose a timeout and you do not lose a challenge. Well, the Browns still lost the timeout and they still lost the challenge, but they got the 2 yards. It's like, all right, we were wrong. We were wrong about the spot of the ball. You were right. But since you get the first down, we're still going to take your timeout away. Like, what the heck kind of BS is that? Like, do you not know your own rules, your own sport? And then it took them almost 10 minutes later in the game for them to say, "Oh yeah, wait, hold up. We got that wrong." And like, so, it was just like the refs, it kind of felt like the refs was just out to get us. And then the worst play of the game was was on fourth down. Jaguars had the ball and it was driving to for a touchdown. They were down by 8 to tie the game. And it was fourth down. Mike Glennon snaps the ball. I can't remember who hit him from the back, but from the other side, Olivia Vernon's coming in full force, and all he does is hit Mike Glennon. He doesn't hit him hard. He doesn't do anything. All he does is hit him. But since he had his helmet down, something that was almost impossible to avoid, they called a personal foul, a play that dictated the game. Like it wasn't a blatant personal foul. All it was just a football play, and they called it a personal foul, and they got a new set of downs, and the Jaguars were able to get a touchdown. Now this could have dictated playoff position. This could have dictated so much stuff in the NFL, and you guys tried to screw the Browns out of a playoff win. That was messed up. That play was messed up. But the Browns have to take some personal responsibility too, because they left a lot of points on the board. There was a fumble at the very start of the second half. That left points on the board. There was Baker Mayfield missed 2 passes on one drive, so you missed out on 4 points right there. So that left points on the board. And we gotta get those first downs. Like, if Kareem Hunt catches that ball, or Baker Mayfield make a better pass, and you get a first down, that's also points on the board. So, you probably left potentially 10 points on the board. And also, it was just a weird game. And the fact that the Browns won it is a testification of their character and their battle and their wit. Because after all of that happened, and the Jaguars got the touchdown, and they were only down by 2 points, and they needed 2-point conversion to tie the game. Old typical Browns would have just gave up that 2-point conversion and lost to overtime. But no, what happened was Andrew Sanjehu, the player that everybody in Cleveland just been knocking for the last year, he made a great play to stop the 2-point conversion. And then, of course, Baker Mayfield made a great pass on third down to Nick Chubb to ice the game and ultimately win it after a call by the ref to put us back at 3rd and 12. So even after all of those penalties, even after all those BS calls by the refs, the Browns were still able to get a first down, ice the game, and win it ultimately. And with all that said, at least we're still winners and we're still 8-3. But man, that was a close call. That was a close call.
I will say that definitely that's definitely a rough series of events, and definitely kind of seems like the Browns, as honestly the Browns have been kind of want to do this year, didn't really consistently play up to the potential that they had. Although I will say it's kind of hard to really blame Baker Mayfield and Kareem Hunt for a bad connection on what could have been a really game defining pass.
Yeah.
When Baker Mayfield, I know he didn't have the most, eye-popping game or anything like that, but he also did not make any severe mistakes. He held on to the ball. He didn't throw an interception. He didn't fumble or anything like that. He may not have been spectacular, but he did manage the game, which is, when you have the ability to win around your quarterback, being a great game manager is honestly the best possible thing that you could be.
Then
Kareem Hunt was part of a rushing attack that gained 200 yards. So again, so I mean, it's just kind of really, if there's anybody out there lambasting Baker or Kareem for bad play here, bad play there, it's the final product is perfectly fine. Y'all got nothing to complain about. Like,
Yeah.
if you obviously got a formula that wins, and at the end of the day, the point of football is to win the game. Winning pretty isn't necessarily. Now, I will say, playing like that against the Jaguars does put a little bit of doubt in your mind, like, oh, how good really is this team? But we'll find out soon because y'all play the Titans and the Ravens up next, right?
Yeah.
Those are your next two games.
Yep, those are the real tests. And let me say this about Baker though. Baker, he did miss a lot of passes, but he made more passes than he missed. And what I mean by that is when you watch, if you go back there and you watch that game, you watch every throw of Baker. The one thing that I enjoyed most about Baker Mayfield is that he is clutch when it's time to be clutch. So he makes those third down plays. There was a play where it was 3rd and 11, and we were at the 1 yard line. He throws a strike to Jarvis Landry to get the first down. The play where the play to ice the game, 3rd and 12, he throws a strike to Nick Chubb to get the first down. So when it's time for Baker Mayfield to perform, he performs, and he is big on those third down conversions. He's big on those play action. So obviously, there are passes that you wish you could have back, but when it comes down to it, and when it comes down to winning or losing, Baker Mayfield seems to show up at the right time, and he's doing what he needs to do to win. And we are 8-3 partially because of Baker Mayfield. We would not be 8-3 with Case Keenum as quarterback. I don't care what nobody say. We would not be 8-3 with Case Keenum as quarterback. Baker Mayfield is one of the reasons why we're 8-3, and 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. I can't get mad at that. I just can't get mad at that. Anytime you do that as a quarterback, that's the side of performance. No interceptions, no fumbles.
Right. And
okay.
It's not spectacular, but it's good enough, and that's honestly what matters.
Yeah. It's a game. It's like LeBron dropping 20. LeBron had 20. Oh, LeBron only had 20 points. I'm like, well, yeah, he had 20 points. He had 20. LeBron had 20 points and 7 assists. Oh my God. LeBron only had 20 points and 7 assists. Like, nobody ever says that.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I don't think LeBron and Baker are really comparable.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, okay, so Donovan Mitchell has 20 points and 7 assists.
Okay.
Like, like nobody's gonna get mad at any NBA player for ever having 20 points or 7 assists, unless they're nitpicking.
Well, I mean, I guess the thought process is if LeBron had stats like that every single game, then people will be like wondering why the hell did we take this guy with the first pick? And then also had some bad games here and there.
Yeah, but like, keep in mind, this is only LeBron's what? I mean, it's only Baker Mayfield's 3rd season. Like, like LeBron's third season, he was averaging 30 points a game. That's because he's LeBron freaking James.
That's what I'm saying. Like Baker Mayfield
got picked with LeBron isn't just a number 1 pick. LeBron was like a number 1 pick, like an all-time number 1 pick. Like LeBron. Like this dude LeBron is literally one of the greatest players ever. I don't care what anybody say. LeBron is like,
also the hype he had coming out of high school was off the fucking charts.
Yeah, LeBron was something that we never seen before. Like, we're talking about like the Michael Jackson of basketball. Like, this dude, like
you can't even really compare it to an NFL player, because no NFL player has really come out with that level of high school hype. There have been some guys who've come out with high school hype, but most of the time, by the time they get through college, a lot of that hype has disappeared. I don't know if there's ever been a guy in the NFL who's really come out like from the point people started paying attention to him as a kid. He was like off the chains, and then went to the NFL and then started doing really well there too. I mean, like the only really comparable thing I can think of is maybe Todd Marinovich, but he busted out in the NFL. So
yeah, it's kind of like what if the whole thing with Baker is like, people look for greatness, and like, rightfully so, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we dilute what we see, because there's some passes that Baker Mayfield made that I was just like, oh, okay, wow, I like that. And it's kind of tough because you see those passes that he missed, You're like, man, like, but he's making the right throws. Like, he's not complete trash because he's making enough consistent throws. He's making enough throws consistently that we're only punting once or twice a game, right?
Mhm.
When it's not snowing or raining. Like, we only punted twice yesterday. We only punted twice in the Bengals game. Like, so like, it's not, we're not punting a lot. That's an important stat to know. We're not punting the ball. If you're not punting the ball, your quarterback's doing what he's supposed to do. So like, it means that he's driving the ball downfield. Like, in order for him to miss the ball, to miss a couple of throws in the end zone, he had to drive us down to the end zone.
Right.
So the thing is that the things that he's missing is not like he has a whole bunch of big things that he's missing. It's just like one or two things that he just got to work on that are very fixable. Like, his mistakes, it's not like his mistakes aren't fixable. It's not like he can't cut the wind because he can't cut the wind. It's not like his accuracy is dirt poor. It's not dirt poor. It's not like he's just throwing 20 interceptions like he was last year. He's not doing that. He's actually on pace to be the third quarterback in NFL history to throw 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns in his first 3 seasons. The only 2 quarterbacks to do that is Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. And Baker Mayfield's on track to do that. And it's, so we can't, so I don't know.
Well, you know what,
You-
Thomas?
you-
You know who else had stats like that thrown around, like maybe not that exact stat, but stats like that where it's like so many interesting things done, like consistently across the board over the first couple of seasons or whatever. You know who else had stats like that thrown around about him?
Who?
Andy Dalton. You know who I don't think Browns fans want Baker Mayfield to be? Andy Dalton.
But I mean,
then again, after
he hasn't played a playoff game yet.
Well, after the last 2 decades that you guys have had, I think you'd take Andy Dalton at this point.
Well,
Because Andy Dalton went to 5 straight playoff games. That's like I can tell you, I was where you guys are at like 10 years ago. So when we got Andy Dalton and we went to 5 straight playoff games, I was like, you know what? I would love to win a playoff game, but this is still way better than what we had years ago.
I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield I don't think we've seen Baker Mayfield's best yet. I don't think we've seen Baker Mayfield's best yet.
Maybe not.
I just don't think so. I think we still got a lot to see from him.
So
I just think we have a lot to see from him.
So who would you say, for the sake of our weekly underrated player awards segment, who would you say you think on the Browns deserves more credit than what they're getting this week?
We gotta give it to and I wouldn't necessarily call him a necessarily underrated player, but we gotta give it to Olivia Vernon, because Olivia Vernon does deserve a shout out. Because last year Olivia Vernon was getting tore up by the Browns media. In fact, I gotta shout out 2 defensive players, Olivia Vernon and BJ Goodson. On the third, Olivia Vernon, because Olivia Vernon, he's been getting tore up by the Browns media and Browns social media because he pretty much, we traded, he was part of the Odell Beckham trade, and we traded our offensive lineman for him, and he just did not show up. So the Browns fans felt like he had fleeced. The last 2 games, Olivia Vernon has been doing a great job of creating pressure against opposing quarterbacks and getting around offensive lines and speeding up the clocks of Mike Glennon and Deshaun Watson. So we got to give a shout out to Olivia Vernon. The other player that we got to give a shout out to is BJ Goodson. BJ Goodson is a 27-year-old outside linebacker. He made a really good play in the end zone to save a touchdown. He kind of come out of nowhere on the scene. We talk about, they talk about these players who get an opportunity to shine now that other players are out. And BJ Goodson is one of those players. BJ Goodson, shout out to you. You've been doing a great job. 27-year-old out of Clemson. So shout out to him. So yeah, that's all I got.
All right.
What about you?
So for the Bengals, it's okay. So the reason that we did underrated players of the week is because the Bengals and Browns throughout our histories have a tendency to not do so great in a lot of games. So
Sure.
it's really, especially when we created this award, I think the Bengals and Browns had both lost their game that week. So it's not so much that we wanted
Yeah.
to talk about who was the best player, but it's because you can't really talk about that so much in the loss, but you can talk about somebody who really kind of played well enough to help the team win, and then unfortunately the
Yeah.
team didn't win. But
Mhm.
also for me, it's about players who like or it's sometimes about players who made one really bad catastrophic play and it just like it really shouldn't wipe out the good performance they had throughout the rest of the game, but it usually does in the minds of fans because you always remember the biggest thing, and in this case you always remember the last thing. For me, the underrated player this week is Drew Sample. Now, Drew Sample, the Cincinnati Bengals now starting tight end. I'm not sure if he'll be starting tight end when CJ Uzama comes back, but so he's a second round player who didn't really do so well last year, and has kind of been a little slower about coming along this year. So people have kind of considered him to be on the track of maybe being a bust, a second round bust anyway, which has kind of off and on been a problem with the Bengals of just not getting picks right in the second round. Um, but he did start developing chemistry with Joe Burrow this year, and you can see the gears starting to turn for him. You can see this is how you really make an impact as a tight end in the NFL. And this week, yes, he had a killer fumble late in the fourth quarter that we talked about it earlier. That fumble pretty much was the difference in the game. Um, it wasn't Brandon Allen's fumble at the very end of the game that pretty much like ended the game, but Drew Sample's fumble gave the Giants the ball back, and they went on to score a easy field goal on the following drive. And that field goal, 3 points, ended up being the difference in the Bengals' 19-17 loss. So without that Drew Sample fumble, there is a good chance that the Bengals, win that game, even if they can't get anything going on the final drive. However, just because he's most likely going to be remembered for that particular aspect of this game, I don't think that people are giving him enough credit for the way he played the rest of the game. Because I mean, he had 4 catches for a total of 40 yards. Every time he touched the ball, he got 10 yards. So, I mean, I know that's not like the most eye-popping stat line of all time, especially in a week when Tyreek Hill goes off and absolutely destroys the planet with receiving numbers. But like I said, it's important because, this is a guy in Drew Sample who has really been getting a lot of flack for not developing as quickly as the Bengals need him to develop at tight end. And just, really not doing enough. And he really needs to start showing progress to show that he can become a consistent contributor to this team. And he was starting to put it together with Joe Burrow, but it was kind of hard to see, like, is this really just Joe Burrow being so good that he can elevate Drew Sample, or is this Drew Sample starting to put something together? And the fact that he's, being productive without Joe Burrow, I think shows that maybe Joe Burrow gave him the boost that he needed to develop in the right direction. But I think, it kind of shows that, Drew Sample is starting to become maybe not like, a top tier tight end or anything like that, but he's starting to become the kind of tight end that the Bengals can be like, okay, we got this guy at tight end. So, he's not going to be wrecking any games or anything like that, but he's, certainly helpful. He's certainly useful. It's good to keep this guy around. And, most likely he's going to be a relatively cheap re-sign in the future because he's not a game breaker. But he's starting to turn into the guy that I think we can see as a consistent contributor for a long time with this team.
I like him. I like Drew Sample a lot. I like I said, the 2 players that impressed me the most when I went to that Bengals Browns game was Drew Samples and T. Higgins. And I've been a T. Higgins fan ever since. But Drew Samples, every single time he turned around, Drew Samples was making a big play that game, and he's he's one of those players. He's one of those players that like just shows up and does his job. Like, you know, that goes so unsaid. That's just such an underrated quality because so many people don't do that. So many people just don't, like in life, so many people just don't show up and just do their job. So many people come to work and they're like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Like, dude, you're still at work. Do your job. And Drew Samples is just the type of player that no matter what the situation is for the Bengals, no matter what the outside situation is with COVID or anything else, he's going to show up and he's going to do his job. And that's what I like about him. He's just a consistent, solid tight end that's going to show up and do his job. And he's talented. And he's not just shining on a bad team. He's shining because he's a solid tight end. And I think you got a diamond in the rough with him. I like him. I like him a lot.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned T. Higgins. He's another guy I think this week. Now he was the best receiving option on the Bengals this week. So I think, and he got a touchdown. So I don't think he needs any extra accolades for what he's, he's going to be seen as the best player on the Bengals this week. So I don't think he really needed an award like this. But I will say one thing that you can really say good about T. Higgins is playing well with Brandon Allen at quarterback shows that, T. Higgins is not just a receiver who looks good because Joe Burrow is throwing him the ball. T. Higgins is a receiver who I think is going to be a great contributor for this team for a long time on his own talent. Like, it's not just because Joe Burrow is throwing him the ball. It's because he's a great receiver in his own right. And like I said, performing like that, even with Brandon Allen throwing them the ball, it kind of reminds me of, to a much lesser extent, it kind of reminds me of Larry Fitzgerald going through the vast majority of his career with guys like John Skelton throwing him the ball.
Oh yeah. T. Higgins is such a clean route runner. He's such a clean route runner. He runs those routes so cleanly, so clean. He runs those routes. He's a big body
guy who can go catch a ball like over top of defenders.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can't imagine even trying to defend that guy.
Yeah, he's so good. He's always in the right spot. Like T. Higgins, I love T. Higgins. Like I love both those guys. Like
he's basically AJ Green 2.0 is what he is.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of likable players on your team. That's why I never mind watching Bengals, man.
Yeah.
And, my boy Brandon Allen. He's gonna win a game for y'all.
Brandon Allen looks like a video game character. It's weird. Like his facial structure and the way he looks, he looks like and the way he moves, he looks like an Assassin's Creed character. It's really strange. Like we got Ezio as our quarterback, and I don't know what to do here. I mean, I like Ezio, but he doesn't seem to be particularly talented. I mean, he's talented as an assassin, but we don't need an assassin. Well, maybe we do need an assassin. But then again, we got Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow's an assassin. So anyway, moving on from that ridiculousness. Normally we do a state of the AFC North segment at this position at the end of the podcast, but it doesn't really seem like there's any point in doing that this week because we already talked about the Bengals and Browns games, and then we already talked about the preview of the Ravens-Steelers game. So we're gonna there's not really much more to talk about with the Ravens and Steelers than we already talked about in the last episode. So I will remind you guys again that we're doing a live stream of this, and we'll probably talk about the state of the AFC North during that live stream, especially as more information comes about how the game's going and what we're expecting to see out of it. But just as a reminder, I said that I think that the Ravens are going to win this game because I think the Steelers aren't going to take RG3 seriously enough. And I think if they had a chance to win with Lamar Jackson, they're going to have basically the same chance to win with RG3 because Lamar Jackson just hasn't been playing that well lately. And Thomas picked the Steelers to win this game because he, I guess, buys into the fact that Lamar isn't playing and has a vendetta against the Ravens, which, fair enough. I don't like the Ravens either. But I don't know. To me, it seems like the Steelers are just and I keep saying this every week, and they keep winning, but they have yet to really, really convince me that they are deserving of that undefeated record. And the Ravens, I think, are going to be a challenge for them because even though they don't have Lamar, they do have a lot of other talent on their team. And if RG3 can at least manage the game well enough, I think this could be a game that honestly shocks a lot of people that I don't think should shock people. But
come on, Pittsburgh.
like I said,
I've never say that in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, we already really went through all that on the last episode of the podcast. We don't really need to go through it anymore. And honestly, for the sake of time, I think we're just going to wait until the live stream tomorrow to talk about it. But anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of the Battle of Ohio podcast. As always, you can find us on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook.com/The Phelps and at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter. You can find you can find Thomas on any of his Instagram, on Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everything with an @ on it. He's T_star94. On YouTube, he's a Blowdown page, and he posts like comedy videos and TikTok montages and all that fun good stuff. So if you please subscribe if you like the content, or whatever, liking and subscribing. That helps us grow the channel. It helps us get this information out to more Bengals and Browns fans who want to hear these games from the perspective of fans with, opposing like wants and desires and stuff. Like, obviously I want the Bengals to go 16-0 and I want the Browns to go 0-16. Or at least get swept in the division. I'm
hurt.
I'm sorry, but it's a competitive league. But at the same time, I think we respect each other enough to take everything from a somewhat objective standpoint. So, like I said, if you like the content, subscribe, recommend this channel to other people, or just liking and subscribing over time will build this channel enough to get other people to, see the content, and the reach will be greater anyway. So, if you want to come on the podcast, reach out to me and Thomas. We'd love to have people on basically any given episode. We'll probably have in the upcoming couple episodes, we'll probably have a couple more people on. Thanks for listening, everybody, and Hoo Day.
Go Browns.